Tennessee football practice notes from over the weekend, and any concerns about some of the reported quarterback notes from those practices. That and so much more. It's your Monday Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Good Monday morning, everybody. Welcome into it, your Monday morning Locked On Vols. I'm your host, Eric Cain. Appreciate you guys being here, making Locked On Vols your first listen, your first watch each and every single morning. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, presented by our friends over at Gametime, where you can download the Gametime app today, put in the promo code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Shout out to our friends over at Gametime. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, what is your team every single day, getting our week started the right way. Tennessee football will begin week number 2 of fall camp a day from tomorrow. So Tuesday, of course, is media day. Wednesday, technically the first day of practice last week. So approaching a week. So we're going to kind of do some big picture thoughts, some thoughts from week 1 of fall camp. Stock up. Whose stock is up? That's coming up in segment number 2. Segment number 1, some notes from over the weekend. A couple of practices on Friday or really Saturday and Sunday. I'll give you what I saw out there at Tennessee football practice here in segment number 1 from over the weekend. And then in segment number 3, Tennessee apparently one of 32 teams that are not eligible, but one of 32 teams who can make the college football playoff, according to ESPN's playoff predictor. What does ESPN's playoff predictor have to say about the Volunteers, specifically Heather Denich over at ESPN? That's coming up next in segment number 3 right here on a Monday show. All right, so I was over at practice over the weekend, checking out Tennessee football practice. And again, if you guys read the practice reports, not only from myself at volquest.com, but other media outlets, we all do some variation of some practice report. You got to keep in mind, right? I mean, I try to put as many disclaimers as I can in there. We don't see much at all. What we get to see, half of it's stretching, a third, a fourth of it is individual work where they're literally just drilling. I mean, defensively, we don't get to see hardly anything because the defense is just drilling the entire time we're there. We're just watching them go through drills. That's it. We don't get to see any hitting drills for the most part. We don't get to see any anything like with the any one-on-ones for the most part. I mean, defensively, we don't get to see hardly anything. Offensively, we get to see a little bit more. We get to see kind of who's up there with the quote-unquote first string, offensive line for the day. We get to see routes on air, and I'll talk a lot about routes on air here in a moment. But what I'm trying to say here is we don't get to see much, okay? We get to see like anywhere from 12 to 18 minutes, and half of that is stretching. So whenever we give a report, whether it's here on Locked On Vols or at volquest.com or whatever, you got to keep in mind, there is so much more, about like 85% of practice that we don't get to see. So I always try to write like when the media is present, when the media was there, all that and more, because, my thoughts over the weekend in the routes on air session wasn't very good when media was on hand. Now, as soon as the media walked out the field, I'm sure it could have gotten better, all that and more. But while we were there, specifically the quarterbacks and wide receivers on Saturday and Sunday, wasn't very good, to be honest with you. And why this does not need to be cause for overreaction. There's been some overreaction amongst the Tennessee fan base, and that just goes to show you how much we love football, how much we miss football, and how passionate the Tennessee fan base is about this program. But kind of reading our reports and everything, I think there's been some overreaction. And here's where I'll say it's not worth overreacting right now. I want to see what these guys do in full pads. I want to see what these guys do in scrimmages. Scrimmage number 1's coming up on Saturday. I'm not going to buy stock. Sure, you want to do the little things, right? But I'm not going to buy stock into a bad day of routes on air. You know why? Because routes on air is not a true simulation of what a football game is. Routes on air, there's no defense, clearly. Even 7-on-7, there's no defensive lineman, but we're talking about routes on air. There's no defense out there. Quarterback can be lighting it up, routes on air, but what's he do when there's guys out there? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's not a true simulation. There's not a pass rush. There's not, there's not a lot of those things that go into, what makes a true team period or an 11-on-11 period. Also, potentially say you go into a routes on air session and say, I'm just hypothetically saying here, like, what if Josh Heupel or Joey Halsey or somebody says, hey, Joey Aguilar, or hey, George McIntyre, or hey, Jake Merklinger, or Joe Milton from years past, Hendon, Nico, whoever. Like, hey, in this routes on air section, I want you to work specifically on your front foot. I want your front foot to be, the short choppy steps, all that and more. I want you to work specifically on your plant foot. I want you to work specifically on your non-throwing shoulder. And, whatever the case is, again, I'm not a quarterback's coach, so I don't know what they're coaching them up to do. But what if they give that quarterback something specifically to work on for that brief, guys, I'm telling you, 4 to 5 minute period? We in the media, we're never going to know about it, right? So, again, this is why we shouldn't draw big-time overreactions from a poor period on Saturday. On Sunday, there was a lot of drops to begin that period, but then I thought the quarterbacks and wide receivers really finished strong. I did. I thought they recovered very nicely, and they finished much better than they started, and that's, of course, what you always want to see. But overall, I don't buy a whole lot of stock into routes on air because that is not real football. Whatever. What I am going to buy stock in is talking to people who were at the scrimmage on Saturday or are going to be at the scrimmage on Saturday. The second scrimmage coming up in a couple of weeks. Who commanded the offense the best? Who made the right throws as somebody was covering them? Who made the right checks at the line of scrimmage? Who checked off, saw what the defense was, checked the play at the line of scrimmage, and commanded the offense the way that it needed to be? That's what I'm going to buy stock into. A couple other notes from over the weekend. Chris Bradsoe continues not to be out there. Tennessee only has 7 scholarship wide receivers. He's not practiced one time yet, at least in a full participant manner. He was out there with a helmet one day trying to get to an acclimation period, so he's back sometime this week. The expectation is that Chris Bradsoe is going to be back sometime this week for sure. On Sunday, Mike Matthews wasn't out there. And I've been told that that's precautionary. It's what it feels like. Should be out there as soon as they get back out here this week. Might be limited some, but just really it sounds like it's precautionary. But Mike Matthews did not practice on Sunday either. So all of a sudden, you blink, you were down from 7 scholarship wide receivers to 5. Which, again, numbers-wise, is not where you want to be. Football is a contact sport. Being held out of practice here and there, that's not the end of the world, okay? That's certainly not the end of the world. Football, again, is a contact sport. But from a numbers perspective, again, you're down a couple of receivers. You go from 7 to 5. You don't have a whole lot to work with, that's for sure. But Mike Matthews, I'm told, is very, very minor. Should be back out here first of this week. Chris Bradsoe should be back out here at some point this week, which is good. And then another guy that's missed 2 straight practices is Joshua Josephs, Leo. I'm told that, he might be limited some for a week or so. It's not a very big deal. But again, no, they're not going to be taking chances with some of these guys, especially guys like Joshua Josephs, where you know what you got in Joshua Josephs, okay? He's played for years. You know exactly who he is. Kind of like Miles Kitzman, right? They're not going to rush Miles Kitzman back. He's wearing a red non-contact jersey. They're not going to rush him back into contact because they know what they're going to get out of Miles Kitzman. So, sure, you need to be practicing as much as you can. You need to be repping. You need to take contact, obviously, before week 1. But you're just not going to take these chances, especially early on in fall camp. But Joshua Josephs, again, should be fine. Might be limited over the next week or so. But he missed practices on Saturday and Sunday as well. A couple other notes that I wanted to point out. You look at the offensive line, and it looks like Sam Pendleton's really getting a true shot at center. Came in via the transfer portal, probably a guard, right? But then we talked does it make sense to get the best 5 out there if he's at center? Sure, he got to look at it in spring ball, don't get me wrong, but it feels like priority number 1 is to see if he can play center here in fall camp. He was repping with the ones a couple of days ago. On Sunday, he was repping with the ones again. And if he can win the center job, then that allows a Shami Marov or a Jesse Perry or somebody else to come in and play guard, and maybe that strengthens the 5 as a whole. So one of my big takeaways from the past couple of days, and we'll talk about this here in segment number 2 as well, it sounds like Tennessee is really trying to see if Sam Pendleton can play center first and then kind of go from there. Because everybody wants to talk about quarterback, everybody wants to talk about wide receivers and losing Dylan Sampson. You've got to find somebody that can snap the football. That is a very, very much important. So it feels like Sam Pendleton is getting a legit shot at the center position along with William Satterwhite. Looks like Shami Morrow, Jesse Perry, along with Wendell Moy, and of course Sam Pendleton when he's in there are kind of your 4 guards. And then your tackles, of course, Lance Hurd and David Sanders, Jeremiah Hurd, and Bennett Warren. We'll get to that here in a moment as well in segment number 2 and some of the big takeaways after week 1. Also, one other note from over the weekend, I don't think Juan Morris is going, the freshman running back from Oakland, I don't think he's going to have a specific role in the backfield this year. I mean, I could be wrong, right? But you have 3 veterans in front of you, okay? So he might not have a specific role in the backfield as a true freshman, but I do think he's going to see the field. I think that he could be one of those guys in contention to be a returner, both kick and punt. So DeJuan Morris looks like $1 million, right? I mean, he looks really, really good. Already looks like an SEC running back. I think the future is bright for him, but look for DeJuan Morris, Braylon Staley, Mike Matthews. Those a lot of people have been asking, about returners, right? And Boo Carter's not in the fold right now. Boo Carter, I guess I should have mentioned this at the top as well. Been doing stretches with the team at the beginning of practice, but when practice actually begins, he goes off and does some work on the side. So Boo Carter is still trying to check those boxes for Josh Heupel before returning to the practice field. So with Boo Carter not in the equation right now, you need a punt returner. I think Braylon Staley makes a whole lot of sense right there. Kick returners, DeJuan Morris, Mike Matthews. Those are some of the returners I think are in the fold right now for Tennessee football. So those are some of the notes from over the weekend. Also quarterbacks, they mix and match their order. On Saturday, it was Joey Aguilar going 1, Jake Merklinger going 2, George McIntyre going 3. On Sunday, it was Jake McIntyre going 1, Joey Aguilar going 2, George McIntyre going 3 as well. Those are some of the notes from over the weekend. A lot of talking points. Again, I wrote about it. I certainly was not the only one that wrote about it. Sloppiness. I guess not crisp. Sloppy is the word for that, like I already said it. I think that can be described as the routes on air sessions for Saturday and Sunday, but I'm not buying stock into that. I'm not going to overreact into routes on air because, again, routes on air is not real football. Also on Sunday, that group finished much, much better than the way it started. So I think there's something to be said in there. And also, it's the first week of fall camp, right? You're not supposed to be hitting on all cylinders right now. So I'm not going to overreact to that. I'm intrigued to see how the operations standpoint is following the first scrimmage. I'm not saying that they're going to be all SEC. I'm not saying anybody's going to win, trophies in terms of offensive personnel or anything. I'm just saying I want to see where this personnel is from an operations standpoint, the execution after the first scrimmage this coming Saturday. So I'll be intrigued to hear from that as well. Week 1 takeaways. What are some of my biggest takeaways from week 1 of fall camp? Spoke on a couple of them already, but we'll continue the conversation when we return right here on a Monday. Locked On Ball. Stay tuned. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink minus the alcohol into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with your friends, this is a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest, some days on the golf course or off it, right? For me, I don't play golf, so off the golf course, you're in need of just an extra boost to stay sharp and energized. Fall camp's happening right now. The day job doesn't quit. The podcast doesn't quit. I'm over on campus pretty much every single day. I get that 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock feeling in the afternoon. I need a pick-me-up, and that is where 5-Hour Energy really, really helps me. Also, for you golfers out there on the links, right? It's all about good times with good people, good flavors. Of course, the grape ginger lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse to go without chasing down the bev carts. If you want to go to 5hourenergy.com today, but that's the number 5, 5hourenergy.com. You can use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive $20 off your order. The offer is only valid through September 30th on one order, cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get energized. Get the boost that you need to power through. Order transfusion-flavored 5-Hour Energy shots today. Again, that's our friends over at 5-Hour Energy. Hey, I forgot to mention this in segment number 1, but tomorrow is Tuesday. You know what that means. Mailbag show. So any questions you guys have, Tennessee football, basketball, baseball, recruiting, transfer portal, whatever it is, questions from fall camp week 1, let me hear it. Comment on the YouTube channel. I'll try to find those in the comment sections. You can send me a DM, tweet me, talk to me on Instagram, @_Cain or @LockedOnVols. Would love to hear from you guys for the mailbag edition of the show. That is coming up tomorrow right here on Locked On Vols. I met an everydayer at the Waffle House in North Knox, and he said that he's from here living in Montana, and he watches and listens to the show to keep him up to date on the Tennessee Volunteers. So that was awesome. I love hearing those stories. Welcome home for the weekend. I thought that was really, really cool. One of the better parts of the weekend. So enjoyed that interaction for sure. Week 1 takeaways. Let's do stock up, okay? Here's who I have stock rising in through week 1 of fall camp. Now, again, the official week 1 will end on, I guess, Wednesday, but we're 4 practices in. Here's kind of what stood out to me. I think the tight ends, stock up. We know what Miles Kitzman means to this system, to this team, to this offense. We know what he's capable of. We know what he's all about. Ethan Davis, yes, there's still some questions about the inline blocking, the physicality of all that, but he's spent the better part of 2.5 years trying to prove that he can play the physicality aspect in this offense at this level. And he looks like $1 million. He continues to put on really, really good weight. He continues to show out, at least I hear, in some of these team settings, but also in the 7-on-7 routes versus air, not 7-on-7, routes versus air. He just continues to look like who we thought he was going to be coming out of high school. I think Ethan Davis has had a very, very strong start to fall camp. I think these freshman tight ends as well. Cole Harrison's been limited. Cole Harrison's not been practicing with an injury that dates back to spring ball. I think Jack Van Dorselaer and Deshaun Brand, they both talked to the media last week, but I think Jack Van Dorselaer, his background defensively at a really, really good high school in the state of Texas, has prepared him, at least from the physicality standpoint of playing in the Southeastern Conference. He already looks like an SEC football player. Alec Ablin said that his ability to run routes in space and catch the football is an underrated part of his game just because he doesn't have a whole lot of experience in that regard. He played some tight end in high school, but primarily focused on the defensive side of the football as a senior. And I think Jack Van Dorselaer, kind of building off a really strong spring for him, has been doing a really, really good job. And then maybe the guy I've been impressed with the most, and still has a lot of questions, don't get me wrong, because, again, this transition, very similar to Ethan Davis, is Deshaun Brame. I mean, Deshaun Brame and routes on air. Again, I'd spent a whole segment to kick off this show talking about don't overreact to routes on air. Let me overreact to Deshaun Brame routes on air. He just looks so fluid. He looks so natural. With questions at wide receiver, and say the injuries pile up at that position or whatever, I'm not saying I've heard that this will happen or anything, but wouldn't it make sense to utilize the Deshaun Brame maybe in a slot, maybe flexed out wide or whatever, like not as a starting quote-unquote wide receiver, but running more 12 personnel, but using him in that role to maybe play the slot? I think that make a whole lot of sense, not for like 70 plays a game, but for 40, for 45, right? If you get to a point to where you really are stressed at the wide receiver position, I think that makes sense because he looks fantastic running routes. He looks like that part of his game is going to translate over just fantastically. Again, like everybody, I want to hear about him in scrimmage number one. I want to hear about them when the full pads come on. They've got the shoulder pads on now, so they're popping a little bit. But, contact all the way to the ground, full speed. I want to hear about where he is in the physicality aspect of playing the tight end position at this level. But nonetheless, the tight end position stock up. I've been so impressed with the tight end position. I think the tight end position's gone off to a fantastic start here in fall camp. Linebackers. And again, shoulder pads just came on. They've had 2 shoulder padded practices. So tackling to the ground, all that stuff's going to be ramping up and magnifying this week. But I love the linebackers at the top. Jeremiah Thielander, Arion Carter, Edwin Spillman. Again, you have William Inge, and we make jokes in the media. Everybody's wearing a gold jacket with William Inge, right? Because everybody's fantastic. Everybody's great. But he loves him some Edwin Spillman. And he said that Edwin Spillman is the best of Jeremiah Thielander. Edwin Spillman is the best of Arion Carter. And he brings the best of both of them and kind of goes out there on the field. He's got the instincts, the aggressiveness of Carter, or I guess the instincts, the smarts, the physicality of running through a brick wall of Jeremiah Thielander, the athleticism, the speed of Arion Carter, and that's just kind of his game. So I love the linebackers at the top with those 3. Really like Jaden Harmon. I've liked Jaden Harmon dating back to his recruiting days. Tennessee, flipped him from Alabama and then held on because Alabama never went away. I think Jaden Harmon, healthy, is going to play a role. Could be the 4th or 5th linebacker for Tennessee in this rotation. Jaden Perlotti, another freshman that missed spring ball. I think that he adds some athleticism to the position as well. Brendan Ains, who never gets talked about in this conversation, from Page High School in the Mid-State. He was here in spring. I mean, all these guys are going to play special teams. Jordan Burns, who was a redshirt freshman, or was a true freshman last year that redshirted because he was banged up pretty much the entire year. He's put on a lot of good weight. Looks like an SEC linebacker. I think the linebacker room is going to be deeper and more versatile this season than it has been in the Josh Heupel era, any other season. And I think that's a good thing because I think there's a lot of capable bodies there, and I think there's a lot of really, really talented guys there. Again, led at the top, and I think Edwin Spillman probably can be the best of the bunch, him and Arion Carter. So I'm excited about that. Stock up linebackers with William Inge. Stock up to the cornerbacks. again, don't get to see an awful lot. We don't get to see one-on-ones, don't get to see 7-on-7s, don't get to see 11-on-11, don't get to see team. And primarily when the media is out there, it's just a lot of drilling for the defense. But again, the personnel grouping, Colton Hood looks, again, like $1 million. I think he fits the role, fits the mold of what Tennessee wanted in him. Versatility, the ability to free up some guys and move some people around, some chess pieces in the secondary, specifically right now when Jermon McCoy's not out there because, of course, he's still injured, and the uncertainty of Boo Carter. That allows Jalen McMurray to flip over to play some star, okay? That allows Colton Hood to come in and kind of be with the first team at corner because he's played, in the Big 12. He's played some corner opposite of Travis Hunter at Colorado, so he's got experience at that position. Whereas Jalen McMurray also had experience at star position with Temple a couple years ago. But I think the cornerback position is going to be really, really good, led by Ricky Gibson right now. And I'll tell you a freshman that I got eyes on this week, and I've started to I'm like, okay, I'm going to start watching that guy because he's very intriguing from a physical makeup look. Very long, very athletic, very fast. And he was one of the first and earliest commits for this class of 2025, right? Or 2026, whatever, 25. Ty Redmond, right, from Milton, Georgia. He and his teammates, one of the first couple of guys that were in this class. And I think Ty Redmond's a guy that they really, really like at the cornerback position. I think he's had a good start to fall camp. So I think cornerback specifically is also a position that stock up. And then, when Jermon McCoy gets back in the fold, I mean, you're talking about the likes of Jermon McCoy, Ricky Gibson, Jalen McMurray. Those are the three that played it last year. You throw in Colton Hood. You add in Ty Redmond, some of these other freshmen. I think the cornerback position is deep and has had a good start to spring ball as well. So stock up to the cornerbacks. And then here's one that I like, but again, I just have no clue about until we hear some reviews about 11-on-11, best on best, and scrimmages. Offensive tackle. Lance Hurd looks so much better. We know he's dropped about 30 pounds. He's in shape. He's looking much better. David Sanders has been putting on some weight. He's right around 300 pounds, which has been fantastic. It sounds like he's had a strong start to fall camp as well, really picking off where he left off in spring. Jeremiah's Hurd, redshirt freshman. I don't know if he can play. I have no clue, right? I mean, I don't know. We'll have to see how he does in scrimmages and see what kind of the word is on him. A guy that was a basketball player that picked up football really, really late, and Tennessee took a chance on him because he's 6'7", 300 pounds. He looks like $1 million. Like he's coming off the field, like first five off the bus, right? Bennett Warren has been flipping from right to left tackle as well. Remember, he was once upon a time Tennessee's highest rated tackle in the class a couple years ago, right? Or actually, he was that was David Sanders. Bennett Warren was Bennett Warren is a class ahead of David Sanders. David Sanders is a true freshman now. Bennett Warren redshirted last year. But Bennett Warren was a summer enrollee, and again, he never really got his feet under him. He's playing catch-up the entire time. But now Bennett Warren, he's practicing left tackle, right tackle. My point in all this is I like the collection of bodies at tackle right now. Plus, you got Jesse Perry that can slide out if needed. We won't know exactly kind of where the tackle position is specifically until scrimmaging and all that and more. But I like the collection of bodies at the offensive tackle position. So, again, stock up offensive tackle. So, through week one, for me, position groups that are stock up. Tight ends, linebackers, cornerbacks, and offensive tackle. And different offensive line combinations as well. Wendell Moy, the transfer, he's been doing left guard and right guard. He's going to be one of your starting guards. But they're trying to figure out, do they want experience with him on the left side with Lance Hurd? Would it make more sense to have him on the right side with a true freshman and David Sanders? I think that'd make more sense. If Sam Pendleton's your center, then you can put another inexperienced guard beside Lance Hurd, who Lance Hurd has played in this league before. He's been around the block. Maybe that's Sham. Maybe that's Jesse Perry, whoever. I think matching Wendell Moy with a David Sanders on the right side makes all the sense in the world. So, again, we'll have to see, but I love they're mixing and matching the offensive line combinations to try to find out who fits and who works best where. And that's what fall camp's all about. So that's kind of some of my week one takeaways. Again, we're going to learn so much more this week because pads are on, full pads. It's going to be scrimmage on Saturday. Hopefully we'll get to see some separation from the quarterbacks. I don't think anybody's separated themselves at all yet, in my opinion. Haven't heard anything in that regard. But, again, long way away. The day after the first scrimmage is always considered moving day. You're going to walk in, your depth chart's going to be completely different because you scrimmaged, They have a time to assess the film, and then it's a new starting point. Reassess. Okay, so your best, back up Mike. Your best to back up Will. Your best to be the starter at the edge. All that and more. So that's coming up on Saturday, but we're going to learn a lot more than we know already this week coming up, week 2 of fall camp. All right, when we come back, Tennessee is one of 32 teams that can make the CFP according to ESPN's playoff predictor. What does all that mean, and what does Heather Denich, ESPN college football personality, think about Tennessee's chances of making the college football playoff? That's coming up next right here on your Monday Locked On Vols. We've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show that you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Gametime comes in. Gametime makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually dropped as it gets closer to showtime, so you can save up sometimes up to 60% off with the killer last-minute deals. Not just about concerts, about sports in your area. Here in Knoxville, you got the Smokies at Covenant Health Ballpark right now playing. You've got football at Neyland Stadium coming up. You got basketball at the Food City Center. You got baseball at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. Concerts, comedy shows, sporting events in your area. Chances are you can buy tickets to those events on the Gametime app. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets to a concert, to a game with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, put in the promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account, put in redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Hey, don't forget to get in those mailbag questions for tomorrow's Locked On Vols. Appreciate you guys for being here and everydayers making the show what it is. We'll answer your mailbag questions coming up on tomorrow's show. Best time of the year right now, fall football camp. We're a week into it. You want to stay up to date. You want to know what's going on. You want to get entertained a little bit as well. Here for some great guests throughout the week. Please subscribe to the channel. Tell your friends about it. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. All right, so let's react a little bit to an article over at ESPN.com. Heather Denich, one of ESPN's college football, biggest personalities there, is kind of reacting to the college football playoff predictor. It lists the highest percentage teams to make the CFP, and the college football playoff predictor believes 32 teams can make the college football playoff this year. Tennessee comes in at number 10, primarily off the SP Plus rankings, okay? But Tennessee comes in here at number 10. Might seem a little bit high right now, but hey, you don't ask for a second opinion, you take it. Tennessee comes in at number 10. The 10th highest odds, according to ESPN Analytics, to make the playoffs at 38.5%. Tennessee, according to ESPN Analytics, has a 38.5% chance of making the CFP. Tennessee, according to ESPN Analytics, has a 2.3% chance of winning a national championship. So you're telling me there's a chance. Yes, a 2.3% chance, according to ESPN's Analytics. Of course, last year, Tennessee went 10-3 overall, 10 win of their regular season, lost to Ohio State in Columbus at the in the college football playoff. And so this is Heather Denich on if she agrees or disagrees with ESPN's analytics. Quote, disagree. This is too high for the Vols, who returned just 39% of their offense from last season's playoff team, 110th in FBS, with former quarterback Nico Iamale out at UCLA, running back Dylan Sampson, and the top 3 receivers gone from last year's team. The team's entire offensive identity is a question mark. The season opener against Syracuse in Atlanta is hardly a gimme to start the nation's 15th most difficult schedule. Okay? I agree with some of that, most of it, in terms of lack of offensive production returning on offense, not having an offensive identity right now. Sure, I agree with all those things because Tennessee hadn't played yet. We just don't know. But Tennessee certainly has a lot of question marks offensively. Okay, no mention of defense in there, but okay. Toughest test, October 18th at Alabama. Yes, the third Saturday in October. Heather Denich also says, yes, the September 13th game against Georgia is probably a tougher opponent, but going to Tuscaloosa to face Bama could mean a second loss before November. And that's with Oklahoma and a trip to the Swamp still looming. ESPN's FBI gives Alabama a 71.9% chance to win. Yeah, again, I think from a national perspective, maybe Alabama, you could make the case. I'm not making the case, but you could make the case that Alabama being ranked third in this preseason predicted order of finish is too low. I think LSU, I think it was too high. I think LSU should be up there. I've got massive questions, just like everybody has for Tennessee. I've got massive questions about Alabama quarterback. I do. Alabama running back's okay. Alabama on the offensive line's good. Alabama defensively is solid. Okay, so they have less questions overall than Tennessee does. But also the Crimson Tide have a big-time question at quarterback, just like Tennessee does. Sure, the third Saturday in October, a place as well in Tuscaloosa that Tennessee's not won since 2003. Massive question. So that's the toughest test. Another section here says what the committee will like. Quote, avoid going 0-2 against Bama and Georgia. This is the kind of schedule that helped Alabama finish as the committee's top 3 loss team last season. The Tide had wins against Georgia, LSU, South Carolina, and that helped them stay in contention even with bad losses to Oklahoma and Vanderbilt. If Tennessee can do the same and earn 2 or 3 statement wins, it might be able to earn some forgiveness in the committee's room for multiple slip-up elsewhere. My only question about the committee is, sure, Alabama was very much in contention as the top 3 loss team. Yeah, that's great. But Alabama's third loss was late in the year. Ole Miss had 3 losses, but Ole Miss should have lapped Alabama, in my opinion. Ole Miss's third loss came before Alabama's third loss. But they were punishing Ole Miss, and they were punishing other teams, but when Alabama had its third loss, it was no big deal. There was many were still pushing for Alabama to make the college football playoff. It made no sense to me, right? Why is it that they can say losses don't matter, it's who you lose to? No, it's when you lose. Why does when you lose matter to everybody but not Alabama? That's my question. But nonetheless, that's what they have to say about what the committee will like. What the committee won't like, quote, unconvincing wins. While there are plenty of opportunities for Tennessee to impress the committee against elite competition, the Vols need to look at part of the playoff team against the likes of the Vols need to look the part of a playoff team against the likes of Syracuse, ETSU, UAB, Mississippi State, and New Mexico. Losses to highly ranked teams can be forgiven, but if this new look Tennessee offense doesn't impress the committee on film against the teams that it should beat, the Vols should struggle to earn one of those at-large bids. Couple of things here. Number one, let me draw your attention back up to the first paragraph. Heather Denich says, the season opener against Syracuse and Atlanta is hardly a gimme. Let me turn your attention to the very last paragraph here, where Heather Denich says, while there are plenty of opportunities for Tennessee to impress the committee against elite competition, the Vols need to look the part of a playoff team against the likes of the first team she lists, Syracuse. So which one is it? Is it a team that Tennessee should beat the crap out of, or is it a team that it's going to take Tennessee down to the wire? I don't know. I personally think Tennessee is going to hammer Syracuse. I personally think that Tennessee could start any of the 3 quarterbacks and would beat Syracuse by 2 touchdowns on a neutral site. That's what I think, because I think Syracuse, though it had a great season last year, that, much like Tennessee's offense, that is very much a different team. Very much a different team. But again, we'll talk more about that here coming up later on. But which one is it? Is Syracuse a team Tennessee should beat the crap out of, or is Syracuse a team that's going to take Tennessee down the wire? I'm confused because you said both. That's number one. Number two, there's no mention of Tennessee's defense anywhere in this story. There's not a mention about Tim Banks. There's not a mention about Tennessee's secondary. There's not a mention about Joshua Josephs. There's no mention about Tennessee's defense. Yes, I get it. Defense is not sexy. Yes, I get it. The lazy eye test of a playoff member committee, all that and more, is about offense and points. And I agree. Tennessee needs to beat the crap out of Syracuse and ETSU and UAB and Mississippi State on the road and New Mexico State. Tennessee needs to annihilate those teams, okay? Tennessee needs to look the part. I wholeheartedly agree with that. But there's no mention about Tennessee's defense, specifically in the agree or disagree with the ESPN analytics subsection. No mention about Tennessee's defense. Sure, the offense got all these question marks, but Tennessee's defense. Jermon McCoy's a question mark. Boo Carter's availability to begin the season. Sure, all that's question marks right now. But Tennessee's going to be good up front. Tennessee's going to be good in the middle layer, and Tennessee's going to be good in the back end. Tennessee's defense will be a top 15 defense once again. So why no mention of Tennessee's defense? I find it really, really weird that in this entire piece about Tennessee in the story, there's not one mention about Tennessee defense. So anyway, thought I'd bring that on to the show here. I thought it was interesting. Still, ESPN Analytics thinks highly of the Vols, giving Tennessee the 10th best odds to make the CFP. Those teams mentioned ahead of Tennessee. At number 9 is Notre Dame. At 45.6%. Number 8 is Miami at 46.3%. Number 7 is Clemson at 47.3%. Number 8 is Oregon at 57.5%. This is a percentage to make the CFP. Number 6 is Penn State at 63.8%. That was number 5, 63.8%. Number 4 is Alabama, 66.2%. Number 3 is Ohio State at 70.6%. Number 2 is Georgia at 78.6%. And number 1 is Texas at 83.9%. All right, that is going to do it here for this edition of Locked On Vols. We're in a couple of minutes in overtime. Excuse the link to this show, but appreciate you guys for being here and sticking with me. Mailbag edition of the show, plus anything else from week 1 of Tennessee football fall camp. We're going to talk about it right here on Locked On Vols. Get back into our Scouting the Opponent series. We'll go to week 3 coming up. Either tomorrow or the next day, all that and more. Got a big week ahead as Tennessee football fall camp continues. We'll talk quarterbacks, O-line, and everything else Tennessee football involved. This is Locked On Vols. Appreciate you guys.